Hey everyone, Kevin P. McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Digital Juice tutorial, and this time we're going to take a look at getting started with animated shoulder sets for Adobe's After Effects. I have Corner Office, and why don't we work with this element inside of Adobe's After Effects, and I'm going to show you how we're going to bring in a chroma key of our talent here, and it's also an interesting situation that you're going to want to think about when you're working, because the clip that I'm going to be bringing in is not 1920 by 1080. It's 1280 by 720, so we're going to want to take that into consideration when we're working. And what I'm also going to do is show you how you can take things and not only do a standard chroma key, but I'm going to show you how we can spice this chroma key up a little bit with some third-party plugins that you might have on your machine. Okay, so let's import some footage. What I'm going to do is right-click, say Import File. And I'm going to go to my recent places because I have a folder called, appropriately enough, Chroma Key Talent. And I'm going to bring in two different elements here. I'm going to bring in the Mary Jane element, and I'm going to bring in the VSM HD green screen video shoot. Now, I'm doing this for a specific reason because I talked about the fact that these elements here that we've rendered out of the juicer, that we've saved out of the juicer, are HD 1920 by 1080. Now the thing is that if you have a clip that's 1920 by 1080, which this Mary Jane clip happens to be, you're actually already set to go. All you need to do is take this element, drag and drop it into After Effects. Let's just put it on the topmost layer here, right above our anchor here. Let's try that again here. There we go. And then we can sort of position her. What I normally like to do just to get position is just adjust the transparency, and we'll sort of position her, right about there. We're ready to get in and start chroma keying. Fairly straightforward, fairly easy. What happens in a situation where we have a shot like this that we need to use? I'm just going to zoom in on it here. The only problem is that if you take a look at this clip, it's actually 1280 by 720, so it's not as big as the other clip. Well, what most people would think that they would do, I'm just going to delete this Mary Jane clip here, is they would take this element, drag and drop it into the project like such. We'll just bring it right to the top. They say, okay, well, you know what, I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to scale it up. The only problem with doing that is that obviously by scaling up, we're going to lose quality. It's going to be, not as crisp and clean as it would be at 720p, 1280 by 720. So in most cases, because the talent is really the most important thing, and chances are, if you shot this 720p, that's sort of the format you're going to be working with the entire way through the process. We want to keep things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo what I just did by dragging and dropping our talent into our composition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our talent and drag and drop her into her own composition. As soon as I do that, what's going to happen is that a composition is going to be created that is the exact same parameters as the clip that was dropped in. Now, one thing I'm going to do here, and this is something I want to point out, and that is when the team at Digital Juice made this project, they set After Effects up in a certain way to show them the frames. You can see there's frames here, and you can see the frames zinging by as I drag through. But for me, I don't like working like that. I like working with timecode view. So to change this, all I have to do is navigate up to File. I'm going to come down to Project Settings, and I'm going to switch it back from frames to timecode, just like that. And there we go. There's my timecode back again. Very nice. And now that I've dragged our talent into her own composition, all I have to do now is simply take that Corner Office element and drag and drop it right in behind her. And guess what? She can now easily fit in this scene. Now you'll see that the frame size is a lot bigger than the 1280 by 720 frame size. What most people do in this case is they hit S on the keyboard on both Mac and Windows and adjust the scale. But for me, I don't do that. Why? Because what I like to do is I like to hit Control, Alt, and F, F as in Frank, Command, Option, and F on Mac. And what that's going to do is it's going to take our 1920 by 1080 image size and it's going to constrain it down to 1280 by 720. Basically, it's like snapping it down so that I know that this perfectly fits my frame. Now, of course, I don't need my talent here. So what I can do is simply turn my anchor off here inside of this pre-comp, and when I come back now, I can simply turn my talent on. I can position her wherever I need her to go. Let's just hit T for transparency here. There we go. We're going to put her over probably right about there. That's looking pretty darn good. So you'll see, obviously if you're working with clips 1920 by 1080, no problem. But you know what? If you got clips that are different sizes, even standard def, this is very easy to get in and very simple to adjust and get the background working exactly the same as your master clip. Okay, what I'm going to do now is let's talk a little bit about chroma keying, because that's obviously the most important next step here inside of After Effects. We're going to want to key our talent out to put her over top of our background. Now how we're going to do that is actually very easy. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to the Effects and Presets tab inside of After Effects. I'm going to type in Key Light. There we go. Now, obviously, you might have other third-party keying applications that you prefer to work with. The reason I like to use Keylight is because it's included inside of After Effects. Why wouldn't I if it's there? What I'm going to do is take Keylight. I'm going to drag it right down here and drop it onto my clip. You're going to notice that nothing has happened. The reason that nothing has happened is because I haven't told Keylight what I want the screen color to be. Now, normally what I do first, before I even choose the screen color, is I say to myself, okay, well, you know what? There's a lot of extraneous information in here that I don't need. So what I want to do is I just want to see where she extends her hands out to so I know where to do our mask. Let's just see. Does she extend her arms out very far? It looks like she pretty much keeps them sort of folded in front of her. I think we're going to be okay. So that's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the pen tool and we're just going to mask around her here. We're essentially creating a garbage mat, just like such. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I don't need to worry about keying all of this extra junk on either side of her. Really, the only thing that matters is the key that's right around her. If I wanted to get real specific, I could get right in here and just key right around her. So I'm only dealing with that little bit of green just between sort of her and the edge of the garbage mat. But I think this is okay. I just need to make sure that she doesn't stick her hands outside the frame here, which it doesn't look like she does. Very cool. Okay, so let's do the actual key now. So with Keylight obviously on our clip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the eyedropper with the screen color and we're going to eyedrop right near her, as close to her as we can get. What I'm going to do here is just zoom in on her. Let's actually make sure here that I have my composition selected. So I'm just going to zoom right in. I'm going to sort of select right about in here. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to select it. Boom, there we go. Now most people think, oh, you know, fantastic, we're done. Awesome. You know, she looks great, don't need to do anything else. But that's not true. Because what we've done is we've gone in and we've selected that green color. The only problem is that there's bleed over that's going to happen onto her that you're not going to be able to see unless we actually get in and start dealing with the specific mat itself. And this is where understanding a little bit of Keylight is really going to go a long way. What we're going to do is we're going to switch from the final result, which is the actual chroma keyed element, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take a look at the screen mat. What this is basically going to show me is what the mat looks like. And you'll see that we actually have some issues going on with the mat. That is not what we want. This should be totally white and this should be totally black. And if you take a look, if I zoom in, they totally are not. So let's just deal with the black first here. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to screen mat and I'm going to twirl screen mat down. I'm just going to zoom back a little bit here just so I can see a little bit more of our talent. And I'm going to grab this clip black and I'm just going to start dragging it out. You'll see I don't really need to go very far until my blacks have been clipped to the point, just a little bit more I think, that they are perfectly black. Very cool. So of course if we were clipping the black to crush the blacks down to make them totally black, you'll think we can do the same thing with the whites, right? Well, you know what? You're totally right. Let's take clip white and let's just start dragging it back a little bit and you'll see that now we have a perfect key. Very cool. Now what I can do is I can simply come back, I can switch back to the final result and you'll see we now have a proper looking chroma key. Now we do got a little bit of some stuff going on in here that is not quite what we want. And how we get in and adjust that is actually very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust the shrink grow of the screen. Now you'll see that what I can do is I can come in and if I grab this parameter and I stretch it out, it's actually adjusting it so there's more of a border around her. So all we're going to do is just take it back the other way a little bit here. Just like that. There we go. Very cool. So you can see this is what the original looked like. I'm just going to come back here. That's what the original looked like before we did the key. And that's what it's looking like now. You'll see a very nice, crisp, clean, matte key looking very cool. Okay. Now, most cases people would say, I'm done. Fantastic. Now, to be perfectly honest, if you didn't have any third-party plugins inside of Adobe's After Effects, you could be done and you'd be ready to take this and get in and add some elements into the drop zone. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But right now what I want to do is just talk about how we can spice this up just a little bit more using a third-party plugin. Now, like I said, this is just kind of a bonus on top of what we already talked about if you happen to have an effect like this. And this is an effect you can find across many different packages. The one that I'm going to use is from Boris Continuum Complete. Now, the great thing is that, if you're interested in, maybe checking out Boris Continuum Complete after this tutorial's done, what I suggest you do is head on over to the Digital Juice store because you can actually find Boris Continuum Complete inside the Digital Juice store and you can find it at a bit of a discount if you're interested in picking it up. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to switch back here to the final result. And what would happen here is that if we actually had a screen with footage on it that was going in behind her with some flashy stuff, we'd actually see a bit of light shining out and wrapping around the edge of her. So what we're going to do is add a bit of a light wrap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in, I'm going to type in light wrap. And there's BCC's light wrap. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take the light wrap, drag it right over here, drop it in underneath key light. Let's just come back up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, the first thing I want to do is the view is set to normal. What I'm going to do is say, just show me the wrap only. And you'll see the background right now is set to none. So right now the effect isn't looking at anything. But what I want to do is say, okay, use the corner office. Now if you take a look, you can see there's the light that's being wrapped around the edge of our talent, more so here where we have our screen and less so over here. But you'll see anywhere that there's bright images or bright parts of the image, we're going to get a bit of a better light wrap. Very cool. And what we can also do here is we can come in and adjust the lightness just to crank it up a little bit more, just like such. But where this really comes into play, and you'll see that the light wrap actually adjusts based on what's going on in the frame. So what's going to happen is right there is actually a perfect example. You'll see lots of light wrap in here now. So what's cool about this is that if I come back in and we come back to our view wrap only, I'm just going to switch back to normal. And there's the light wrap running now. That's a little bit much. So what I probably would do is just back off on this a bit. Maybe I make it 0.4, just like that. But if I preview this here, it's going to preview pretty quick. You'll see that as this is flashing, the light's actually wrapping around her, more so over here than it is over here. And it just adds that extra little bit of realism. This is actually what would happen if we actually had a real screen behind her and the light was shining out and was sort of hitting the back of her jacket. We would see it right here. And check this out when I play it back. There we go. Take a look at that. That is some awesome looking realism. Now, like I said, this is just sort of an extra bonus that I wanted to throw in just to show you that you can take your keys and you can take them to the next level. But if, you know what, if you don't have that, no problem. We can simply stick with the fantastic key light effect that we've already added to have a really awesome chroma key. And take a look at that. She actually looks like she's standing inside of this almost virtual set. Okay, so of course one last thing that we do need to talk about is how do we get in and adjust these drop zones? Well, the first thing I'm going to need is some footage to work with. So we're just going to say that hypothetically she's going to be talking about, oh, I don't know here. Let's just come back to our Y drive here, and I'm going to come to my footage, and let's just say she's talking about why not? She's going to talk about some elephants. We'll just grab a couple elephant shots here. And she's also going to be talking about, I think we go to a couple shots in here. So why don't we have her talk about, oh, I don't know. Let's have her talk about some motocross biking. Why not? And I'm not sure if we go to a third one, but if we do, then I think I'm going to have her talk about dancing. Why not? We'll take this one dancing shot and we'll say open. There we go. So all we're going to do to get in and adjust this drop zone, very simple. I'm simply going to double click on corner office. We're going to come right over here. You'll see that I have my video zones right there at the bottom. You'll see we have our transitions. Very cool. But how we can actually get in and figure out what we need to adjust is very easy. You'll see that the team at Digital Juice has actually added little markers here to each one of the layers to tell you what you need to do. And you'll see right here we have open the comp to replace the video, which is exactly what we want to do. The team at Digital Juice couldn't have made it any easier for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate over here to Video Zone. I'm simply going to double click on it, and you'll see here are the 3 clips with the 2 transitions that we're going to want to get in and replace. Now obviously we're going to replace the drop zones, not the actual transitions themselves. So the first thing we need to do is just to, pick a shot that we want to replace. Now I think I'm going to start with the elephant shot first. Why not? What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pick one of these shots here at random, and I'll just double click here. Sure, why don't we just take this one here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first drop zone. I'm going to hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac. Simply take that elephants 1, drag and drop it right down here, and there's the clip ready to go. Now what's important to keep in mind here is that you'll see that the clip extends way down past the end of the actual transition here. So if I wanted to get in and adjust this clip inside of the actual edit itself, all I have to do is simply grab it and drag it like this. You'll see not changing the actual duration of the clip, it's just changing what is actually going to be seen. So if I want to have this elephant, sort of turn and be seen in the shot, very cool, there we go. Then the transition will happen there. What we're going to do is take drop zone number 2, and I think I'll take, I don't know here. Let's see. Why don't we take some motocross footage here, or some BMXing footage. Again, Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac. We'll take this shot, drag and drop it right in here like such. Now, obviously, this shot's 720p, so I will need to scale this shot up a little bit. I'm not really too concerned with quality loss here because it's really only marginal depending on which codec you use. Now, again, what we can do is simply take this, just drag it right to about there, so that way what's going to happen is we're going to go from our elephants to our guys almost taken off. Could be guys and girls, kind of hard to tell. And of course, last but certainly not least here, let's just turn our transition on here. There we go, transition, very cool. Transition, very cool. Last but certainly not least here, we're going to take our dancing shot, which I believe is the first one. There we go, very cool. Again, Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, drag and drop. There we go. We'll scale this up a little bit. Very cool. And you'll see that what we can do here, of course, again, is to adjust this clip however we want. Very cool. Now, of course, when I come back to the main comp here, what we're going to have is we're going to have our elephants first. Transition in with the elephants. There we go. Then transition over to our BMXing guys here, or our motocross guys. Then, of course, transition to our dancer. Very cool. I'll give this a quick preview here. And you'll see, looking very cool. Now, of course, I'm looking at this at half res right now, but it's rendering pretty quick, or previewing pretty quick for half res. So you can see, again, what looks like an exceptionally complex animation and project is actually made very simple with Digital Juice's animated shoulder sets. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, you can head on over and post them in the Digital Juice forums. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.